not true to the story.
Okay.
Here's why it was not true to the story. That last 2 years of his life, Eazy-E was smoking hot. Even though he was sick, he was happy as hell.
I watched that movie and stuff like that. I don't think that shit true because Eazy-E had the whole Alondra behind him.
So since we checked out No Vaseline in one of the last videos I recorded, man, today we checking out Every Time Straight Outta Compton Lied About Eazy-E. I wanted to check that out because like everybody in the comments was saying, the movie definitely told lies or definitely was Dre's part of the story or point of view. You feel me or whatever. He made himself look like a hero. He really tried to make Eazy the bad guy, and that's why I said I really don't fuck with the movie like that no more, but it's still one of the hardest biopics, documentaries, whatever you want to call it, that we have, especially in the black community. But let's go ahead and get into it. Like, comment, subscribe, get your popcorn, get everything you need, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We getting into it.
It seemed like Dre tried to make himself seem like the man. You know, he turned himself into a gangster, and everybody know that's not Dre's character.
No, it was not true to the story.
Okay.
Here's why it was not true to the story. That last 2 years of his life, Eazy-E was smoking hot. Even though he was sick, he was happy as hell.
Eazy getting beat up.
Yeah,
by
you
Shug
know.
and his people.
You don't want that problem.
Well,
I wouldn't want that problem.
The true story tagline is a classic way to draw people into theaters, and it definitely worked for Straight Outta Compton.
It did work.
Especially when it came to Eazy-E's story. No denying the movie's success. It earned tons of praise and dominated the box office.
It did.
But it also sparked a lot of criticism, with many pointing out how it delivered a one-sided, agenda-driven version of history. For some, the film didn't just bend the truth, it helped spread myths and lies about Eazy-E, who's no longer here to defend himself.
Yeah, I watched that movie and stuff like that. I don't think that shit true because Eazy had the whole Alondra behind him.
Right.
This slant.
That's what I said. Like with a lot of movies, they do it for the dramatic part of it. So I feel like they was doing it for the drama or the plots or the twist. I don't know, because it really ain't had no plots or twists in the movie. But you know what I'm trying to say. The script basically. I really fucked with it just based off of this nigga right here. Ice Cube's son was in it, and he portrayed his dad good and shit. But like I done watched it so many times without chat. Once you know the truth, you would look at this movie so completely different, bro. Literally.
Might have something to do with the fact that the story was mostly shaped by Dr. Dre and Ice Cube.
Right.
And if you know your stuff, you'll remember that Dr. Dre and Eazy-E didn't exactly get along.
Right.
In fact, their beef was one of the main reasons behind the infamous Ruthless Records versus Death Row feud. In Dre's version of events, the late Eazy-E is painted as either a bitter, foul-mouthed troublemaker, a naive pushover, or a small-time hustler hiding behind ghostwriters while backstabbing friends. But those who were closest to Eazy tell a completely different story. They remember him as a complex, kind-hearted man, not the one-dimensional villain we often see.
They said when Dr. Dre was beating on Mission Lake, Eazy was the only one of the niggas that tried to like stand up to him and shit. So that's why it's like when in the movie they try to make this nigga like a bad person. I don't think he's a bad person. There's so many stories of Eazy helping folks, you know, back in Compton or anywhere, nigga. It's on one side for me. It's the video, not me.
Also, one of the most criticized parts of the movie is how it portrays Dr. Dre as this almost superhero-like figure in rap, which doesn't quite add up.
It
The
seemed
nigga
like
didn't even look like the nigga.
Dre tried to make himself seem like the man. You know, he turned himself into a gangster. And everybody know that's not Dre. Eazy wasn't the type of dude you can just say anything to, talk to any kind of way. So the fact that they made him look more docile than he was, I didn't.
Are you still friends with your group?
A couple of them. Ice Cube, MC Ren, and Yella.
Okay, what about the other one?
Who? Dr. Dre?
Yeah.
G stuff come from the concrete, and that's the streets, which he was never from the streets. Only reason my people affiliate him with the streets is through me.
A lot of people pointed out that Dre's darker side, like it.
Don't let me find out Eazy with Dr. Dre big homie, bro.
His history of
What he put him on for.
Violence.
Basically, he did put him on for real.
toward women was conveniently left out of the film.
Yeah.
They grabbed me by my hair and
started slamming me up against the wall.
The reality is, there's a lot more to unpack here, so let's break it down further. One of the most talked about moments in Straight Outta Compton is how it portrayed Eazy-E's final days. In the movie, there's a dramatic scene where Eazy breaks down in tears after being diagnosed with HIV, but those who were close to him have
and then it's like they didn't even talk about none of his kids in the film. You feel me?
called
Like,
this out as a complete exaggeration.
I'm truly sorry, Mr. Wright.
Members of Bone Thugs and Harmony, who were with Eazy until the very end, said that wasn't how it went down at all.
Right.
According to them, Eazy never wallowed in despair or let his diagnosis crush his spirit. Instead, he stayed true to himself, handling the situation with strength and determination, even in his final days.
No, it was not true to the story.
Okay.
Here's why it was not true to the story. That last 2 years of his life, Eazy-E was smoking hot. Even though he was sick, he was happy as hell. He had Bone Thugs and Harmony.
I don't like how it was portrayed that Eazy-E was like, he was like broken, like stressing, like when he died, because like
that's what when you watch it, like I was remembering, I'm like, didn't he find Bone Thugs during this time too? Cause you feel me? It's just like with certain stuff with this film chat, it just make you think. Like they left so much stuff out, and I get it because they can't do a whole person or whole group, whole life. But at the same time, at least put some truths in it, bro. I don't know.
Now, let's be real. Of course, Eazy was sad about his condition. He was young, successful, and had so much to live for. Anyone in his position would feel some level of sadness. But the overly emotional portrayal in the movie didn't match what people close to him actually witnessed. It seemed like the filmmakers took some creative liberties to make the scene more dramatic and impactful for the audience. But in doing so, they painted a picture that didn't align with reality. Another glaring issue in the movie was the claim that Eazy was broke during his later years. The film shows him supposedly downgrading his lifestyle, moving into a smaller house, and struggling financially. But according to people like BG Knockout, this couldn't be further from the truth.
The fact that they tried to make him look like he was broke, he bought weed and all this and started slanging. All that shit was bullshit.
In fact, Eazy was anything but broke. His company, Ruthless Records, was worth hundreds of millions of dollars. He had a thriving bank account, the #1 group and album in the country, and multiple properties.
I mean, they did say he was a businessman.
Some downsized single house as the movie suggests.
That's
crazy. His company was worth hundreds of millions of dollars. His bank account was still flooded. He had Bone, he had the #1 group. You know what I'm saying? The #1 album, like.
To put it in perspective, Eazy was worth about $50 million at the time of his passing, with Ruthless Records valued at $30 million. He had a collection of assets that included several homes spread across high-end areas like Norwalk, Topanga, Westlake, Calabasas, and Woodland Hills. His Woodland Hills property was especially luxurious, perched on a hill with stunning views and tucked away from the.
I think. Because they said Cube wrote some of this shit too, so I'm not just going to blame everything on Dr. Dre. But I do, at the same time, he wanted to make himself look good. But at the same time, bro, you gotta be real, dude.
Noise of city life. Eazy wasn't just about the money, though. He was also a dedicated father who spared no expense for his kids. He reportedly spent over $20,000 a year per child on private Christian Montessori schooling and more than $50,000 a month on child support. On top of that, he went all out for birthdays, designer clothes, jewelry, and the latest toys. According to his son Eric Jr., they even spent quality time together playing Sonic the Hedgehog. Beyond being a father and a rapper, Eazy was a businessman with an eye for opportunity. He was involved in several ventures, from creating a comic book series called The Hood with Rob Liefeld, co-creator of Deadpool, to developing speakers called Eazy-E's Bass Shakers. He also had plans for a video game, a screenplay titled Smiling Faces, and even opening a film studio. In 1994, he started the Ruthless radio show on KDA's 92.3 The Beat, which quickly became a hit, topping its time slot. According to FBI files, Ruthless Records was making over $10 million a month in revenue around the time of Eazy's death in 1995. The label became the first independent record company to outsell major ones. Even after his passing, Eazy's legacy lived on. His widow still owns N.W.A.'s catalog.
That's what's up.
Meanwhile, royalty checks from old Ruthless artists continued to flow into his estate. Now, with the rise of streaming services, Eazy's music and business ventures will likely keep generating revenue for generations. So portraying Eazy as broke in the movie, that just doesn't add up. BG Knockout believes the portrayal was intentional, a way for Dr. Dre and others involved to skew Eazy's legacy.
Yeah, I really think Dr. Dre got a bone to pick with Eazy, bro. I feel like, yeah, I don't even know if they got back cool before Eazy died. I don't have no clue. But at the same time, bro, yo, why did y'all downplay it like that? Yeah, he died of, or whatever. But at the same time, chat, it's like they made that man, it was like really fucked up how they portrayed him about to die and during his death and after. They didn't even give him like a real motherfucking condolence thing. You know when you put at the end of the movie and they be like loving memory or loving the fool? They put the fake nigga up there.
This morning, rapper Eazy-E has died after a battle with AIDS.
That have to learn about what's real when it comes to AIDS. I would like to turn my own problem and their kin. Much love to those who have been down from.
And then they show Eazy at the end with the credits. Like, come on, bro. Y'all couldn't do like a glimpse of his life at the end. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I feel like that was a quick cash grab of N.W.A. and shit. It's a big niggas still love it. Y'all still love it. Y'all tuning in to me reacting to this shit for the first time. You feel me? I love it. Cause it's like, bro, that's a part of history we can't, let go.
I don't get like why they put that in the movie. So to me, it seemed like they was trying to skew his legacy.
Yeah. Another side of Eazy-E that Straight Outta Compton completely ignored was his selfless and giving nature. People who knew him always talk about how he had a big heart and a soft spot for anyone society overlooked or forgot about. Whether it was small acts of kindness or grand gestures, Eazy showed his empathy time and time again. For instance, in his own neighborhood, Eazy would do things like buy ice cream for the kids in Compton or spend hours skateboarding with the younger kids in Calabasas. But it wasn't just about the small stuff. He went all out when it came to helping others. During the holidays, Eazy would dress up as Santa Claus to hand out gifts and make sure families in need had turkeys for Thanksgiving. He didn't stop there. He'd take the
That's what I'm saying. He act like this man was such a horrible person. I don't know.
Children of his employees on Disney trips and even spend over $600 on merchandise to make those moments extra special. He was always trying to expose kids to opportunities they might not otherwise get. He sponsored rodeo events to introduce inner city youth to new cultural experiences and spent time talking to incarcerated teens, encouraging them to turn their lives around.
Achievement for all the inner city kids to be here? Yeah, I think so. I know so.
They ain't put none of this in the movie, by the way.
Eazy also donated a significant amount of money to causes he believed in. He supported charities like City of Hope Memorial Hospital, participated in the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and was involved with athletes and entertainers for kids. His generosity even earned him an invitation to a 2-day conference and fundraising event hosted by President George H.W. Bush in 1991. One story really shows the kind of person Eazy was. Cocaine, a member of the group Above the Law, shared how Eazy saved his kids' lives. Cocaine's twins were born prematurely and needed an expensive operation to survive. Eazy canceled an important business meeting, drove all the way from Calabasas to Fontana, and handed over $30,000 to cover the medical bills. I honor that brother to this day, Cocaine said.
Tell you a story. Before my kids was born, they were born prematurely, twins. They was about to be born, they need to be born 7 months. So they needed a major operation.
For so many people, Eazy wasn't just a boss or a business partner. He was a mentor, a protector, and a friend.
Yeah.
He had a way of seeing the potential in people that they couldn't see.
And then I feel like with the gangster persona, they wanted him to be so hard, like even with Tupac movie, they still showed vulnerable side of Tupac, when Tupac was going through shit in jail and shit, I don't know, Chad. It's just like, I just wish they didn't write Eazy character to be this hard, tough, loving person, and he won't like that.
Themselves. He encouraged them to aim higher and be better than they ever thought possible. But the movie didn't show this side of him at all.
Exactly.
Instead, it painted Eazy as a pushover, which couldn't be further from the truth. One of the most ridiculous moments in Straight Outta Compton is the scene where Suge Knight supposedly intimidates Eazy into signing over Dr. Dre's contract to Death Row Records. In the movie, Suge is shown slapping Eazy around and bullying him into giving up Dre.
Mouth.
But anyone who really knew Eazy knew this portrayal was pure fiction.
Yep.
Eazy wasn't
said
the
it was
kind
fake.
of guy you could just push around. He had deep connections with some of the most serious figures out there, including the Crips and the Mexican Mafia. Eazy was also heavily tied to the Southside Crips, who were a major force in Compton. One of his key connections was with Keef D, a well-known figure in the Compton gang scene. Keef D's family even owned Compton Hydraulics, a car shop on Long Beach Boulevard in Compton. This wasn't just a place for car repairs, it was a hub where street culture, music, and business overlapped. Eazy grew up right in the middle of Southside Crip territory in the Kelly Park Compton Crip neighborhood. His close ties to Keef D's brother Kevin made him part of that circle in a way that went beyond music. In 1993, when Eazy filmed the video for his iconic diss track Real G's, he wasn't just throwing subliminal shots, he was making a statement. The video is packed with imagery that ties Eazy to the Southside Crips. One standout car, known as the Gangster of Love, was said to belong to either a prominent Southside Crip named Big Spank or someone from Keef D's family.
Motherfucking Jesus.
The people featured in the video weren't just extras. They were part of Eazy's world, some of them throwing up Southside Crip signs, rocking Seattle Mariners hats, a known Crip emblem with the S for Southside, and decked out in blue, the gang's color. Eazy himself sported a blue Mariners cap with a yellow S, cementing his affiliation in plain view. Adding to this mix was BG Knockout. BG Knockout and the crew backing Eazy were fiercely loyal, making it clear that Eazy wasn't someone you could mess with lightly. Both BG Knockout and Keef D have dismissed the idea of Suge ever laying a hand on Eazy.
Eazy getting
Glad they
beat up.
cleared that up, bro.
In this
You don't want that problem.
Well,
I wouldn't want that problem.
For them, the slap story is pure fiction. After all, Suge Knight would have been risking a war with the Southside Crips.
That's what make you think, like, that's what made me think, if he really did do that shit in the movie, like, why did he not start, like, a war or some shit, bro?
Frankly, that's not a gamble anyone would want to take.
Yeah, I watched that movie and stuff like that. I don't think that shit true because Eazy had the whole Alondra behind him.
Eazy also had connections to the Mexicans, and years later, he would go on to cement that connection in a big way when he signed Brownside, a Chicano rap group led by the late Toker, as well as another groundbreaking Mexican rapper, Kid Frost. At a time when Latino rap wasn't taken seriously in the mainstream, Eazy E saw something others didn't. He was ahead of his time and foresaw that the Chicano rap movement was going to be a force to reckon with.
He had already signed the Brownside, and then he ended up signing Kid Frost, and we ended up working on the Brownside record, you know what I mean? And you know, that was...
Brownside, in particular, was something special. Under Eazy's guidance, they became pioneers of Chicano rap, laying down the blueprint for how the genre would sound and feel. But Brownside wasn't just another rap group trying to capitalize on a trend. These guys were real gangsters, straight out of the streets with stories to tell. Everything they rapped about was authentic. There were no exaggerations, no clout-chasing antics, just raw, real-life experiences that reflected who they were.
Came up and started blasting 'cause I knew they couldn't fake it. Jokers on the loose. And I'm straight gang related.
One of the most legendary stories about Brownside's loyalty to Eazy comes from the height of the infamous Ruthless Records versus Death Row Records beef. The war between Eazy E and Suge Knight was no joke. Death Row was known for being aggressive, and Suge Knight's reputation for intimidation was well earned. But as Toker later explained, Brownside played a huge role in keeping Eazy safe during this time. According to Toker, he and the Brownside crew showed up at Ruthless Records right when things started getting heated between Eazy and Suge. Toker described it as almost fate, like destiny brought them there at just the right time. Death Row's crew had assumed they could overpower Eazy because they—
Who the fuck was the white folks?
Just the right time. Death Row's
Who the fuck was these? The fuck?
Crew had assumed they could overpower Eazy
He sounded a
because
dog,
they thought
nigga.
he was alone and vulnerable. But they were wrong. Brownside was already there, ready to ride for Eazy without hesitation. Toker said they let Eazy know straight up, "We're here, and we're ready to back you up no matter what."
No, that's right.
We got to Ruthless when the Death Row Ruthless beef was cracking. So they thought they were gonna overpower my boy because my boy was by himself.
Right.
But you know, destiny's a mother.
Toker said
I know
that
that's
during
right,
one
man.
of their conversations, they told Eazy straight up, "If there's anyone you want gone, just say the word." Eazy, being the kind of guy he was, tried to brush it off.
Yeah.
He told them, "It's not like that, man," trying to downplay the situation. But Toker wasn't having it.
I'm
He
already
looked
knowing.
Eazy in the eye and said, "Nah, it's exactly like that."
Make a long story short, we told E, we rolling with you, fool. We got your back. What's cracking with this death row roof? Who you want gone? Cause we ain't around.
Toker made it clear to Eazy that if he just mentioned a name, they'd handle it. And he wasn't bluffing. Toker said they had youngins, kids who were 15 or 16 years old, that were more than ready to step up and do the job. In Toker's words, at most they'll let them out when they're 22, so you don't gotta worry about a thing. That's how serious they are.
15? All right, don't worry about it, E. I'm gonna send my little young juvenile torpedo so they can go ahead and do YA life. They're gonna let my boys out when they're 22 years old. Don't.
After that conversation, things between Eazy and the Mexican community became even tighter. Eazy knew he had an army behind him. Wherever he went, fancy restaurants, important meetings, or events, he'd call up Brownside and his Mexican homies to roll with him. They
That's
weren't
what's
just
up.
there for show either. These guys were ready for whatever. They were hoping to run into anyone from Death Row Records so they could make a statement and prove to Eazy that they had his back till the very end.
Everywhere he went, he called his Mexicans. He called Brown Brothers. Where you at? What's cracking? Swoop up over here. Come in the Lolos. He be in Beverly Hills at an expensive restaurant. 20 Mexicans right.
And one day they got their chance. According to Toker, Eazy was chilling at a cheesecake factory when about 7 or 8 guys claiming to be affiliated with Death Row appeared. These guys surrounded Eazy, trying to intimidate him. These dudes were trying to flex their strength, maybe thinking they'd caught him alone and vulnerable.
Car, and there was like 7, 8 that claimed Death Row waiting for their cars to pull up because they were leaving the Cheesecake Factory. Right when my boy E walked past them, they all surrounded him. What's up? And they were saying.
But they didn't realize what they had walked into. Out of nowhere, the tables turned. Suddenly, the Death Row guys found themselves surrounded, and not just by a few people. Toker described it as feeling like they were at a Mexican soccer field. The entire place was filled with Mexican gang members who showed up to protect Eazy.
No,
These
that's
weren't
right.
random guys either. They were real gangsters, people who didn't play around.
All of a sudden, them 7, 8 looked around like, we're surrounded. They thought they were at a Mexican soccer field surrounded by Mexican soccer players, but it was us.
The Death Row affiliates were completely shook. The intimidation game
was.
flipped on them real quick, and they knew they were outnumbered. Without wasting any time, they scrambled out of there, jumping into their cars and speeding off like their lives depended on it. And just to send a message, Toker and the crew didn't let them leave quietly. Toker told them straight up, "In case y'all want to come back, you're more than welcome. We'll be right here waiting." This was a statement, one that made it loud and clear that Eazy E wasn't alone, and if anyone thought they could intimidate him, they'd have to deal with the Mexican gangs of Compton. Another thing that felt way off and straight out of Compton was how Dr. Dre was painted as this almost superhero.
Yeah, super nigga.
It just doesn't add up when you look at the full picture. A lot of people have called out how the movie conveniently left out the darker side of Dre, especially his history of violence toward women. One glaring example is what happened with Dee Barnes. This was when she was a presenter on the Fox TV show Pump It Up, which covered hip-hop culture and often featured big-name rappers. By the time the Ice Cube drama kicked off, Dee had already interviewed N.W.A several times. She was familiar with the whole crew and had covered them on her show for years.
Ice Cube of N.W.A will be hanging out with him and all his homies at his house.
We'll be back after these commercials or breaks or cuts or whatever.
Whatever. Don't go anywhere.
But once Cube left, things shifted. N.W.A responded by dissing him hard on their track, 100 Miles and Runnin', making it clear they weren't just going to let him walk.
So that's where it started from. Okay.
Away quietly. According to Dee Barnes herself, when she got the group back on Pump It Up to talk about their latest moves, the energy was tense from the start. Every question she asked led to a jab at Ice Cube, and it got so heated that the production team had to edit out some of the harsher parts just to make the interview airable.
Wow.
But here's where things took a turn. When the episode finally aired, it included not only the N.W.A interview, but also another clip filmed earlier on the set of Boys in the Hood with Yo-Yo, who was Ice Cube's friend and collaborator. Unexpectedly, Ice Cube crashed the interview and took the opportunity to diss N.W.A, using their own lyrics to throw shade right back at them. To make matters worse, Cube even made fun of the doc, who was close to Dr. Dre and had recently suffered a car accident that permanently damaged his voice.
Ice Cube won't pump it up. I got all suckers 100 miles an hour. Like to give a shout out to the DLC.
For the record, even at the time, Dee Barnes said she didn't think they should air that segment, but as just a presenter, she didn't have the final say over the edit. Unfortunately, the final edit sensationalized the story by playing the two clips back to back. After Ice Cube's interview aired, Dee turned to the camera and mentioned that she's always in the middle of controversy. This was likely a reflexive response to an awkward situation, but in the edit, it looked like she was stoking the flames, encouraging the beef between Ice Cube and N.W.A, and positioning herself right in the middle of it.
I feel like that's the only like downside of being like an interviewer or a journalist or something when beef is there, because now it's like it look like you playing both sides. Where if niggas in their right mind know an interviewer can't be biased, so you know,
after
that's
the
fucked
interview
up.
fiasco, some time went by, but Dr. Dre and Dee Barnes eventually crossed paths again. At a Def Jam Records party, a drunken Dr. Dre spotted Dee Barnes. Still furious about how the interview had been presented, he flew into a blind rage. According to Rolling Stone reporter Alan Light in an article called Beating Up the Charts, Dre picked her up by her hair and began slamming her head and the right side of her body repeatedly against a brick wall near the stairway. His bodyguard held off the crowd with a gun, ensuring no one could intervene. Dre then tried to
They was just letting this nigga do this shit?
throw her down the stairs but failed. Undeterred, he began kicking her in the ribs and hands. Dee managed to escape and ran into the women's restroom, but Dre followed her, grabbed her from behind by the hair again, and proceeded to punch her in the back of the head.
It's a painful and traumatic experience.
This vicious attack didn't go unnoticed. Members of N.W.A openly discussed the incident in subsequent interviews. MC Ren bluntly stated she deserved it. B deserved it. Eazy-E echoed the sentiment, saying, "Yeah, B had it coming." Dr. Dre
I get where they coming from because they taking up for their boy, but at the same time, y'all got it wrong. She ain't start this shit, bro.
himself was unapologetic, saying, "People talk all this ish, but you know, somebody F with me, I'm gonna woo F with them. I just did it, you know."
But a
Ain't
woman
nothing you
though,
can do
a
now
woman.
by talking about it. Besides, it ain't no big thing. I just threw her through a door.
Whoa. Not a big thing.
The person who's the host of that show did something that she knows she did and got beat down, and I hope it happened again.
Dee Barnes tried to sue Dr. Dre for $22.75 million, but the case was settled out of court. Besides Dee Barnes, plenty of other women have also called out Dr. Dre for his behavior, which just adds to the irony of him being part of a movie that twists Eazy-E's story while ignoring his own issues.
Exactly.
But regardless of how twisted Straight Outta Compton was in its portrayal of Eazy, his legacy still stands strong today. No amount of creative editing can erase the mark he left on hip-hop and the culture as a whole.
Facts. Dr. Dre, you is a sick man, bro. I'm not gonna lie, Dr. Dre is crazy for that, bro. But like he said, if he already was going through that tussle back then and he got so much shit in his past that make him look so good, what you think he was gonna do with the fucking movie? It's just fucked up that they did Eazy like that in the movie and shit, but at the same time, it didn't really fuck him up. If you know, you know. I feel like if you want to know yourself, you do your research like I'm doing right now. But hey man, like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what was the most insane fact for you in this video that you never knew or did you know about the movie? Let me know in the comments, man. N.W.A is still a great movie. It's still a great biopic. I love it. But at the same time, it do got some lies in it. You just can't, you know, oblige that. But hey, man, like, comment, subscribe. And I'm out.
Please like and subscribe.
We ain't never running out of guns, got 100 shots for you. I feel like Tupac, y'all, I just got the juice. I feel like Tupac,